Producer Chris here. Before we get the show going, the Ben Joravsky Show is 100% independent. Lots of ways you can help us out. You can go visit Ben's brand new website, thebenjoravskyshow.com. He's got brand new featured columns, podcasts, the digital hat if you want to throw in a few digital coins. Bitcoins would be nice. Follow the show on YouTube. We've got the show clipped to 15 to 20-minute segments, make things a little more digestible for people at the internet. And also, we've got shorts. So if you have no attention span at all, you can hang on with us for 1 minute. That helps us out. Check out some of the shorts on YouTube at BennyJ Show.
Hello again, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this I'm Still in Love with Al Green Thursday, and here's why. The great Ken Mejia-Beal is about to join me. Been too long since he's been on the show. Former chair of the DuPage Party Democrats. I'm so old, I can't believe that there's a DuPage Party Democrats. I can't believe that Democrats have taken control of DuPage County, more or less. I can't believe that DuPage County's liberal. I remember when DuPage County was a bastion of Republican conservative politics. Henry Hyde's base, and a guy like Ken would never be allowed there, let alone be in charge of the Democratic Party. Anyway, before I do it, I just want to give a shout out to Congressman Al Green. I'm Still in Love with You is my baby boomer reference, which it's just, I can't help myself, ladies and gentlemen. I said this yesterday with Monroe Anderson when I was doing the show with him. If you tell a person my age, if you give those two words, Al and Green, and put them together, you don't think of a congressman. Okay, you think of a singer.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't help myself, people. Ken's nodding. Someone raised him the right way because he's not even a baby boomer.
No, I was raised by boomers.
Okay, raised by boomers. So you love Al Green. I love Al Green. He's one of the greatest singers of all time.
Yes.
Youngsters, check him out if you never heard of him. So here's this congressman named Al Green. I think he's probably a little younger than the Al Green I'm talking to, even though he's up there too.
Yeah.
So I got to deal with this. Okay. Al Green stood up at the Trump's speech to Congress the other day and started yelling out no mandate. And I'm going to hear what Ken has to say about this. We'll get into that. But I know he spoke for me because the normalcy is over. The pretense that we're living in a normal political environment where the president of the United States is owed respect because he carries himself with dignity, as Obama carried himself with dignity, is over. Donald Trump doesn't even pretend to carry himself with dignity. Donald Trump mocks dignity, mocks decorum. He only uses it every now and then if he feels he has to whip up MAGA to feed their sense of self-pity, which they're just overwhelmed with self-pity and victimhood. So the notion that Democrats should treat MAGA with respect when MAGA has spent 9 years kicking us like a rabid dog. That's how they treat Democrats. That's how they treat trans. That's how they treat gays. That's how they treat blacks. That's how they treat Jews. That's how they treat anyone who disagrees with them. They mock, malign, marginalize. They've been doing it for 9 years. They've turned American politics openly into like this alley fight. And they're all a bunch of deranged cats. So why should we treat them? Why should we treat them with decorum? They've ruined it. Donnie allowed Elon Musk to march into the Oval Office with his looking like me, dressed like me. Kenny's looking at me. He sees how I'm dressed. He knows how I always dress. Nothing changed. Okay. I would not walk into the Oval Office dressed like with my baseball hat on and with his kid on his shoulder. And then they give Zelensky a hard time because what? He's refusing to wear a suit while his country's under siege from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the notion that they are adhering to ordinary decorum and protocol is ridiculous. It's absurd. They're having it two ways. So now today, this just happened before we began the recording. There was a vote in the Congress to censor to censor Al Green, not the singer, the congressman. Just have to always do that, millennials. Sorry. To censor the congressman for defying the rules of decorum that exist in the Congress. Okay, I understand the game that Mike Johnson is playing, Speaker of the House, Republican Speaker. I understand the game they're playing. They're trying to pretend. And so they are the party of decorum, and that the Democrats have greatly disrespected them. Even though anybody in this country knows that it is the Republicans who've trashed the concept of decorum. In fact, I'll just point this out. These same Republicans celebrate a president who pardoned the insurrectionists. You talk about decorum. He said, go force Mike Pence to declare me the winner over Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden won. And they marched down and they knocked over the Capitol Police who were ringing the Capitol, and they marched through the halls of Congress. They took a crap right in the hallway. They were chasing guards around.
And people died.
And people died from it?
Yes.
And Trump calls them heroes and pardon them and takes the, you talk about decorum. They recorded some of the January. I'm not making this stuff up, people. This stuff is out there. January 6th insurrectionists recorded their version of the national anthem, which is the most god-awful version of that. Makes Roseanne Barr look like an opera singer. They record their version of the national anthem. Donald Trump is playing it at his rallies. He says he's going to have them sing at the Kennedy Center. Now that he's taken over the Kennedy Center. So you talk about decorum and respect for law and order? And they're going to censor Al Green because he got up and said, you don't have a mandate. And he doesn't have a mandate. One more time, people, he did not even get 50% of the vote in this country. So he certainly doesn't have a mandate to cut Medicaid, which is what Al Green was protesting, which he is about to try to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this vote, and it passed. He was censored. He was punished. It's like a slap on the wrist. It's not the end of the world. And Al Green's not crying. He's not like a MAGA guy cries. Or, MAGA would be sobbing. Oh, they pick on us. Oh, it's so unfair. Oh, I'm going to go on Fox TV. Wah. He's not crying about it. He said, hey, man, I did it. I would do it again, and they got to do what they got to do. But here's the thing, man. 10 Democrats, like Towns, man. Yeah, and then I'll bring Ken on to get his thoughts on this.
Sure.
10 Democrats voted with the Republicans. And these are 10 Democrats. I looked them up. You don't know any of them. Well, some of you diehard political junkies out there know who they are. None of them from Illinois, but they're from various swing districts, like in Orange County, California. There's one in Hawaii. There's one in New York, where Harris won most of the, Kamala Harris won most of those districts, but it was close, like 51% of the vote to 49 for Donnie Trump. And so it was close. And so I guess they feel compelled to protect themselves by projecting this notion that they are bipartisan in the midst of the most unfair partisan attack on democratic values, on our country's values. They feel compelled to play this game. Wow, man, these Dems, just like, guys, don't you realize where we're at right now in this country? You didn't see January 6th? You didn't see the pardoning? Without further ado, I want to bring Ken on. Ken, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I thought it would be really appropriate to start with this.
Thank you.
Since you come from DuPage County, you actually ran for state rep at DuPage County. I remember that election in 2020. I was stunned.
We've known each other a long time.
A long time, young man. I know. And originally from the southwest side of Chicago. That's the he moved to DuPage County.
Yeah.
So you represent a district that's not unlike the districts of these moderate Democrats who voted with the Republicans to censure Al Green.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt compelled to play a certain political game. And that's why they voted with the Republicans.
Yes.
Bipartisan exists. I would love to hear your perspective on this as a person from a district. And I'll just give you one example. Sean Casten, the congressman from DuPage County, the 6th district, part DuPage County. I understand.
Yes.
52% for Harris, 52 to 46. So it was about the same as some of these moderate Dems from California, New York, roughly the same, very kind of close. All right. But John Caston did not vote to censure. So help me understand the mindset of Dems from areas like DuPage County who voted for censor and your feelings about it. Go.
Sure. So I have a lot in my head right now. So I just have one question. Is profanity allowed?
Yes, whatever you want. It's a podcast.
Got it. So what it comes down to is a very simple thing. You have to be a real asshole to call yourself a moderate in this day and age. Let's start from scratch. Because moderate means the middle. So if you have one side that is literally ransacking our capital, has people rounding up innocent folks in the streets, slashing Medicare to potentially kill our elderly, and you're standing on a platform saying, well, I'm in the middle, you're an asshole. I need you to not be in the middle right now. So that's a baseline. So what happens a lot in these moderate, I'm using bunny ears district, is that a lot of these politicians leave their values and their balls at home every day. And they don't stand up for the people that they should be standing up for, because you have Democrats that are here for the people and you have Democrats that are here for the polls. And these 10 Democrats clearly are there for the polls. They left their values and their balls at home, and they did not vote the right way. That's exactly how it goes. It happens often in suburban areas.
Well, what do you think voters in like the 8th or Lauren Underwood's district? Mm-hmm. She's also partly in DuPage County.
Not anymore, but continue.
She's not in that at all? There's no DuPage County?
She's in Kane and Will, in a little bit of...
Wow.
I can't really think of it, but I just saw her this weekend in Kane County. So okay. She is still around and bopping.
I sit corrected. It's astounding to me. I think she's originally from Naperville, and the concept of Naperville not being in DuPage County is blowing my brain. But let's just forget that for the moment.
It's in 3 counties.
Okay, so it's not unlike DuPage County. I'm just using DuPage County as sort of a general name. A brand. I'm using a brand name for a generic name.
Yeah.
All right. So, what would your advice be to politicians like that who feel that they could lose office? They could, if they lose, there's a longer term loss to Democratic Party, and so it's better to play it safe and guarantee a victory by voting to censor Al Green. You throw him out in the gutter, so they could come back to the district and go, both sides are bad and I'm in the middle. Go ahead.
So let me tell you something my grandmother always told me. If winning means that you have to compromise your internal values, you have not won a goddamn thing. You've won nothing. So if you are compromising your democratic values, you're compromising your own personal beliefs for a quote unquote win, you have not won. You've compromised yourself. So if you're in it for a paycheck, congratulations, you're going to get your paycheck in another 2 years. But if you're in it to do what's right and to do what's important to people, you have lost.
Yeah.
So I've never been a fan of, I'm doing this so I can win, but you haven't won anything. You've lost.
Yeah.
But so if you have a Republican in office or a Democrat that's going to vote with the Republicans so that they win, what do you have? You haven't won anything.
By the way, the Republicans would have censored. They had the votes to censor Al Green there. Just so people know, the Republicans are majority in the Congress. Yeah. That's why their speaker is Mike Johnson. Yes. So if it was a straight up party vote, he would have been censored. Democrats provided those votes. It was a classic one of the case, Ken, where they voted to with an eye to the next election. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Always, yes.
They voted with an eye to the next election. It would not have. It did not. It did not impact the final result.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? It did not impact. He would have been censored anyway, even if they had voted with the Democrats. They did it with an eye to the next election. All right, so let's get into the politics of it.
Sure, let's do it.
In your opinion, voters out in again, DuPage County as a brand name, not just literal DuPage County,
Suburban county, sure.
yeah,
Yep.
suburban counties outside of Cook County.
Yeah.
How popular is a strong stand against MAGA?
Very popular amongst those voters that have actual integrity. So what happens, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't lie to you, Ben. Part of my reason for not seeking reelection in the suburbs and just kind of pulling myself out of that is over the last few years, suburban politics has become very polite versus honest. And I take a stand for things like Medicare for all and things that mean something to people. And there is a movement in suburban politics in particular of decorum and pleasantries and honestly bullshit that the average voter doesn't care about. We care about food on our table. We want to put savings in our savings account. Let me backtrack that. We want a savings account. We want gas that's affordable. I quite frankly don't give a damn if you show up to work in a suit or a tracksuit. I don't care if you swear or not swear. What I care about is the sum of your work being something I can see every day in my everyday life. That is what voters actually care about.
In other words, go ahead, finish your thought.
So what I'm saying is more politicians, suburban politicians everywhere, if you stand up for your community will back you. You don't have to be the most polished. You don't have to be whatever your idea of a politician is, be a actual politician. Is that easy?
What would you want the Democrats to have done during Trump's speech?
I would have liked for them to stand unified and turn their backs to him for the duration of the speech, the way he has turned his backs on the American people. That is what I would have done. I would have gone, I would have stood, and I would have turned my back to him for the duration of the speech. That's what I would have done. I wouldn't have stayed home. I would have been there, and I would have turned my back to him.
And so how would you respond to people who say, oh, well, you've lost the high ground, because now Republicans can do that to the next Democrat who's elected?
As we discussed, I'm not the bigger person. I suggest that no one expect me to be the bigger person. I'm an honest person. I am not going to let you kick me, take my health care, take my rights, take my neighbors, disparage my trans brothers and sisters, disparage the homeless, disparage Muslims, disparage America, and then say, well, let me take the high road. Here's my thing, Ben. I am allergic to nosebleed, so I don't take the high road. I don't want the high road. If you want me to stay on the high road, then you stay on the high road. I go on the road that you show me. Donald Trump has shown us, the Republicans have shown us, MAGA has shown us that they're on the road to hell. So let's join them. You know, it's a great analogy. Democrats keep playing by the rules. If this were basketball, the Republicans have pit bulls playing basketball, and the Democrats are on the sideline going, dogs can't play basketball, instead of going, no, where are our dogs? Yeah. Let's play the game that we're supposed to play, because we're not in the majority. When you're not in the majority, you don't get to set the rules. You don't get to set the tone. You have to play the game that is dealt to you. So if Democrats want to continue playing gin rummy while Republicans are playing, I don't know, death metal, go for it. But you won't win. You won't win.
Could you stand up so the cameras can see the T-shirt that you're wearing? I'm not the bigger person. I suggest you leave me alone. I'm going to take a picture of that. Wait, stand up one more time. I'm going to take a picture of that. And there we go. I'm not the bigger person. Yeah, there we go.
Because I'm not. I used to be the bigger person, Ben. Yeah. You met me years ago when I wore a suit every day, and I spoke very politely, and I didn't swear. And guess what?
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing I've always done, except I'm more real now, and I can be more honest, and I can be more passionate.
Yeah. I actually don't see that much of difference between you now and then.
Well,
Just
because
saying.
I'm honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, you were wearing a suit, but that's about it. Okay.
That's about it. No suit for me.
So that's about the only difference I could see. And when you came so close to beating Amy Grant, that's when I realized DuPage County had changed. And she was still in there. She was victorious. I want to say
He still is in there.
but it's very close. And she replaced Jeannie Ives. So folks remember who Jeannie Ives is. Remember how conservative she is. To give you a sense of the district that elected Jeannie Ives almost elected a gay black man who had grown up on the southwest side of Chicago. Yeah, it just right. blew my mind. Kennedy High School, is that where you went to high school?
Yeah, buddy. Yes. Very
wow.
proud.
Came out of nowhere. Kennedy. I remember you went to Kennedy. I'm like, Kennedy High School.
Crusader.
Oh my goodness. Way before you went to Kennedy High School. You don't even want to know about Kennedy back in the day. Like race fights and stuff. Back
I have a lot of friends that I went to high school with whose parents went to high school.
Okay.
I've heard all about the race riots at the bus stops and craziness. Yeah.
And Kennedy, some crazy stuff. All right. So let's get back on track. I know I'm with you. And I'm a very I'm one of these guys that's always trying to make peace between people in my general life, like family and friends. In fact, I remember having a conversation on the mic with Stacey Davis Gates, Chicago Teachers Union. And I was talking about rifts. We were in the progressive community in Chicago. And I was like, where are the people like me who behind the scenes make peace with people? Like who will say to the warring factions, they'll sit down and talk. Let's say you're having a fight with Billy Bob, all right? And I'll talk to Billy Bob and see what he has to say. Then I'll go talk to Ken and see what he has to say about Billy Bob. Come on, guys, can we make peace? And I'm like, where are the people like that? And I don't see any of them in progressive politics. Okay, in Chicago.
Can I push back a little bit? They are there.
Push back all you want. Go ahead.
Yeah, they are there. They are trying to make peace. The problem is the Democratic Party as a whole has gotten to a place where you have factions of folks who just want to lay down and take it, and then you have factions of us that are just, we've taken enough.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about something different before you go down this path. I just got to make it clear. I'm talking about within lefties,
politics,
okay? We're progressives we're fighting among other progressives. And my reason for bringing this up is that, and I just have to say this, there is no bipartisanship possible right now.
Correct.
We're going to get into the congressional hearings on sanctuary cities. Mm-hmm. There's no bipartisanship there.
No.
There's no attempt whatsoever to try to understand what is happening in cities like Chicago or Boston or Denver, why they have the positions that they do. It's all a vilification
Correct.
of immigrants and a vilification of Democratic mayors for the purpose of rallying MAGA. So there's not an inch, a thimble full of bipartisanship there. It's attack. So who are we kidding? The whole thing was set up to make Democrats look like they're criminals.
Yes.
The party of January 6th, the party of Donnie, the felon, wants to be the law and order party. And so that's why I say,
I get it now.
I'm a man who believes in peace and love and compromise. And
here's the thing, a rule that I follow is I have my people and I have my not people. I never engage in public spats or social media spats or any craziness like that with my people. I think maybe that's where we should get back to. I think that if when we have our progressive people or whoever your people are, argue in private, don't take that shit outside. No one should know about it. I could go through my phone and pull up many text messages of arguments I've had that you would be surprised. Because in public, we're good, which is the way it should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this question.
Sure.
I took a look at the numbers before we did the show. I was looking at Caston's district, Sean Caston, Congressman Caston, and Congresswoman Lauren Underwood's district. In each case, in each district, Joe Biden in 2020 got roughly 55% of the vote against Donnie. And Kamala Harris in 2024 got about 52%. So it was a loss of 3%. Okay. And that shift in districts like the 8th and the 14th happened throughout the country.
Yes.
Right. But we'll just stick with the districts you know well, because you've campaigned there. And so I have my theories, but I would love to hear your theories. Why did it fall?
Can I share something with you? And this is just for context, Ben. So during the last election cycle, I actually campaigned across the country. I went to Detroit, Philadelphia, suburbs of Detroit. I went to like 13 different states for the Democratic Party. So I have a lot of insight to your question. There were a lot of, so number one, the establishment Democrats did not campaign well. They didn't give people a thing to vote for. They gave the people a thing to vote against. That never works. Number two, a lot of the Gaza conversation did not go well. Didn't seem like Democrats wanted to engage. I also found a big, and this is a huge problem when you look at the numbers, especially in places like Philadelphia and Atlanta, and even Chicago in some areas. The Democrats are losing a lot of votes of folks of color, and there's a lot of trust that's been lost over the years. So you see these numbers dropping simply because I think the Democratic Party has forgotten who their base is. They have forgotten their grassroots base, and their base in turn have forgotten about them. That's where you see these numbers dropping.
All right, I'm going to throw a different theory at you.
Sure.
Ben theory.
Go for it.
Actually, it's really, I stole it from her. It's the Del Marie Cobb theory. And
I'll take it anyway.
All right. The theory is this, that the reason, and this is an important theory that Democrats have, in my opinion, have to recognize. The reason Harris's numbers fell from Joe Biden's from 55 to 52, roughly, in districts like the 8th and the 14th, was because voters just could not bring themselves to vote for a black woman.
I can't.
And I believe that had it been a white man voting, had I been running and sitting at my home wearing this and my hat, I'd have done better. So that's hyperbole to underscore a point. And feel free to figure it. I can see your face. I can see it in his face, ladies and gentlemen. He's ready to come at me. That Southwest side and coming out of it. Guy, let's go. He's like ready to rumble in the cafeteria with me. Go ahead.
I am, because it's unfair. And don't get me wrong. I think, and you're right to some degree, her vote totals would have been lower because she is a black woman. I'm not taking that away. As a black man in this country, as a gay man in this country, I get it. But I don't believe that was the reason she lost. And the reason she lost is because the Democrats as a whole, especially the establishment Dems, the progressive Dems are doing a great job of standing up for people. The establishment Dems have done a great job of being polite and showing up to fancy galas and suits and raising money. The problem is folks in the communities are not seeing that change. They're not seeing it. And they saw Joe Biden doing a great job, and then he was pushed out. There was no election for Vice President Harris. That didn't sit well with a lot of people. There were a lot of factors that played into this. The fact that she's a woman and the fact that she's a black woman, did it play into it? Absolutely. Okay. I'm not stupid, but there were other things too.
I'm just saying this. We'll move on for this.
Sure.
It went from 55 to 52.
Yep.
So you agree with me that there's a factor.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So there you go. There you go.
Absolutely.
You basically agree with me. You just don't want to come out and say, Ben, you're absolutely right. Just think about
you're not
it.
Absolutely right.
It's not just this. It's not just 8th and the 14th. It's every single district throughout the country. And then they told us, this is how they brainwash us, Ken. They told us it was the price of eggs. It was the price of eggs. That's what they told us.
And now they're telling us to build chicken coops.
Yeah, now they're saying egg price don't matter.
Yeah. Like, where are your chickens? Like, I'm sorry.
This country will do absolutely anything it can to avoid an honest discussion about racial attitudes.
Absolutely.
Anything they can.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Absolutely agree with you there.
All right. Now let's get to your favorite mayor. And I say that with sarcasm. And that would be Mayor Rahm. So I'm going to Mayor Rahm, who was more or less a liberal on social issues when he was mayor of the city of Chicago.
Yes.
More or less, I'd say. So issues like abortion, gay rights, etc.
Yeah.
More or less a liberal. On economic issues, of course, he was a Republican. So he went on the Bill Maher's show. I know. By the way, you should know this about Ken. He's a huge fan of comedy. We're going to get it. We're going to close with the dessert. And huge fan of comedy. So anyway, so Bill Maher. He went on the Bill Maher's show about a week ago. I finally got around to watching it. And he made what he thought was a joke about getting into a girl's bathroom. I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
But okay. Well, I will now paraphrase the joke that Rahm told.
Sure.
He said, if I knew when I was in 7th grade that I could get into a girl's bathroom by calling myself they, I would have done it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the joke is, of course, that there is no reason why somebody would feel compelled to be anything other than what they were assigned when they were born. It's all a scam for boys to get into girls' bathrooms and to see girls coming out of the stall. That was the joke, and he got a laugh from Bill Maher.
Of course, Bill Maher found it funny.
Found it funny because what Rahm was doing was essentially he had giving Maher what Maher's been doing. So I don't know if you follow this, but Bill Maher's been attacking. He attacks the Democrats, but he's also attacking the trans community. He's attacking the Democrats for caring too much about trans.
Yes, he does.
And so the notion is that the Democrats would have won the election had they not wasted their time and alienated America by doing things like standing up for trans people. And I'm listening to Rahm Emanuel, who again ruled as a liberal. Just so you know this, people. I know memory is short, but he was very much a liberal when he was mayor of the city of Chicago. In fact, when he was over in Japan as ambassador, he was so proud of himself because he stood up for gay rights when he was in Japan. But when he comes back to the United States, it's a different story. So, Ken, I'm like, this is the message they're taking. This is the message they're taking. They look at that 55% that Joe Biden got in 2020, and they look at the 52% that Kamala got in 2024, and they go, oh, well, the reason is Dem stood up for trans. I need to hear, and then they laugh about it, like, oh, those Democrats. And he did further other things Rahm did in that Billy Maher show where he said essentially signed on to the theory that the fires in LA were devastating because of affirmative action. So I'm saying, wow, I'm watching Rahm Emanuel evolve, transform.
Devolve. You're watching Rahm Emanuel devolve. Yes.
Yes. He's constantly devolving, evolving. You're right. You're absolutely correct. So your thoughts on all of this? Go ahead.
Okay. So before I even start, I have to say I used to be a huge fan of Bill Maher. I used to watch Politically Incorrect as a kid all the time. Bill Maher's transition into being a jackass has been very depressing for me. Also, I am the treasurer of Youth Outlook. We do a lot of work with the trans community. And on a very serious note, that the notion that trans people asking for humanity and dignity have cost the nation an election has been so depressing can just imagine for a moment that you just want to be treated with respect and you are being blamed for the downfall of the entire nation. Trans folks are committing suicide over this. And that's not just me saying that. I know trans folks that have attempted suicide within the last 2 months. So I don't find these jokes, bunny ears, funny. They are very disparaging. Rahm Emanuel should know better, but he doesn't. Bill Maher should know better, but he doesn't. I just think on behalf of the trans community, sweet Jesus, they are owed just respect and the same respect you'd show any other human being. They have a right to say, I should be respected. And the fact that other Dems are looking at the trans community and saying, well, this is your fault, just shows how far in the bullshit the establishment Democratic Party has gone. Trans people have every right to be respected in this country. And I will stand on that 10 toes down. And the joke's not funny. It's not funny at all.
It's you say Rahm Emanuel should know better, but he doesn't.
Correct.
Pick that statement apart.
Sure. So Rahm Emanuel, let me be very clear. Rahm Emanuel knows better, but he's playing up to the crowd. He's a circus clown. He's always been a clown. He used to be a funny clown. But beginning with, even the McDonald cover-up that happened in the city, Rahm pretends to be ahead of the social curve, but he's not. I think at the end of the day, Rahm is a lot like Donald Trump in the way that he's an opportunist. He will do whatever the polls tell him he should do. So once again, we're back to this poll thing again that I started off with. He looked at a poll and he said, oh, people don't like pronouns. I'm going to make jokes about it because it's funny, instead of actually talking to people. And it's sad to see Rahm Emanuel kind of do this, but it's not surprising.
Instead of trying to lead.
Yes, be a leader. Being a leader sometimes means doing the unpopular thing. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between a leader and a poll watcher.
Yeah. I'll broaden this. Yeah. I've been following this a long time.
Yeah.
And Obama did the same thing.
Yes.
Obama, when he and I point this out a lot, Ken, but it's really important to understand how politics works with Democrats. Obama began when his state senators in favor of gay marriage.
Yes.
In the 90s. And why? Of course he is. I mean, look at his upbringing. He's from Hawaii, for crying out loud. He went to a fancy private school. You know, I mean, it's just, it never would occur to me that with his upbringing, he'd be anything other than support, and living in Hyde Park on the top of that.
Correct.
Anything other than supportive of gay marriage.
Correct. And
then when he's running statewide as senator, he says, well, my religious convictions have me uncertain about this, so I'm going to pull back. I'm like, your religious convictions? You went to Trinity. That Reverend Wright's church.
Yeah.
It's like they were celebrating gay marriage in Reverend Wright's church. So your religious convictions would merely uphold the belief you already had before you started going to church.
Was watching the polls.
And then, as president, and that if you go look at Joe Biden's first debate against Sarah Palin, they asked him about gay marriage. He goes, I want to assure you that the Obama-Biden White House will be against gay marriage.
Sure
go
did.
Look it up, ladies and gentlemen. You can look it up.
Sure
and then it's like coming around that second term, he's like, I'm pretty safe here in office right now. I think I got this. All of a sudden, he's got the White House bathed in the rainbow colors, Ken. I'm like, this is so cynical, man. This is. Go ahead.
No, I will tell you something a elected official once told me, and this is an elected official that hopefully will never be reelected again. She shall remain nameless, but she said, I'm not a politician, I'm a product. And she said that to me with a straight face. And I said, you are the problem in politics. And we've had a horrible relationship since then. But my point is, you have politicians who lead, and you have poll watchers, products who just simply give the people what they think the people want.
Yeah.
It's not your job. Sometimes you have to educate people into why they should go a certain way versus just saying, you're right, the earth is flat and birds aren't real. Gotcha. You can't do that.
No, and I deal with the cynicism a lot of especially younger people who are just completely turned off on politics,
As they should be.
in particular, and the politics in general, and the Democrats in particular, and the contempt they have for the Democrats, because it's not clear what the Democrats stand for as they sort of like blow in the breeze. And I've heard so many people tell me, Donald Trump, at least he tells you what he thinks, which is not completely true. But it's such a bizarre thought that the world's most dishonest man is somehow the most honest man. And because I don't even know if Donald Trump believes half the stuff that comes out of his mouth. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't really matter. It comes out of his mouth. So, and I don't know. I don't have an answer for him, Ken. I don't have an answer. Name an issue. Almost any issue, Dems bend on that issue.
Every day.
There's like no there. There's no substance to it. And so Rahm Emanuel, who's been all over the map on gay issues, now all of a sudden he's a Bill Maher, you know, and because, I think this is what it takes to get elected in the 8th congressional district or the 14th congressional district to keep the numbers from at 55 as opposed to falling to 52. And you multiply that by every swing district in the country, and I get to be president. And I'm telling you right now, it would have been 55% if a white man had been running, no matter what he said about trans issues. And so that in itself, he still doesn't believe me, ladies and gentlemen, that in itself undermines the need to sell out and betray, you know. And you still don't believe me about that. A white man would have won. I could tell that. I could see it in your face.
I don't believe you because I went to town halls. And when I say town halls, I mean town halls of 50 to 100 people. And 90% of the town halls that I went to were not filled with, your typical old white men. They were filled with Black and brown folks, gay folks under the age of 50. And I'm telling you, there was a huge cynicism and skepticism about Kamala and the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Well,
it had nothing to do with race or gender.
And I will say this. I will say that I've said this, man. And now I really am going to quote Del Marie Cobb. This is Del Marie. She put this in my brain. So the number of Black men who voted for Trump went up.
Yes.
Okay? Went up. All right. The number of Black women who voted for Trump did not go up. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Let's just pause and think about that. All right. Isn't that interesting? So I put that to Del Marie. And you know what she said to me? She goes, well, Ben, they're Black men. Men. Okay. And that let's emphasize they may be Black, but they're still men. And they have issues.
Yes.
With Black women in power. And I feel America as a whole has issues with Black women in power. And when I say this, I'm kind of torn, Ken. Follow me in this. Because I want Black women to be nominated and to be president or senator, et cetera, and so forth. But I see this bias. And I don't know, like I'm looking for a candidate who can figure out a way to deal with this bias. Hillary Clinton, as a white woman, couldn't deal with the bias. I believe a white man would have beat Donald Trump in 2016.
I agree. But let me say this, because I would be remiss not to say what I'm thinking right now, Ben.
Go.
I was raised by a strong Black woman. I love strong Black women. I voted for Kamala. The problem isn't that Black men have a problem with strong Black women. The problem in this particular instance, and I cannot stress it enough, the Democratic Party does not know how to message to Black men. The Democratic Party messages everyone like, hey, this is what we can do for you. President Obama got on a stage in Pennsylvania when the population was less than 5% black. I just want to point that out, and lectured black men and said, y'all know who to vote for. Just do it. No, sir. We need you to work for our vote just like you work for everyone else's. So the pushback, I have to push back as a black man, is my vote is taken for granted every election cycle. You're gay, you're black, we got your vote. That's bullshit. Work for my vote just the same way you work for the suburban white ladies' votes. That's all I'm asking for.
Listen, man, I know the feeling of having your vote taken for granted. As a lefty, my votes are taken for granted every year. Oh, you got to vote for you got to vote for the Democrat. I watch these guys betray every value they have. So I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying within the confines of Democrats being Democrats, blowing in the breeze, vacillating on all the issues, never taking a strong stand, backing away from what they supposedly believe in, throwing trans under the bus because they think it'll get a laugh out of Bill Maher and help them with swing voters. In that context, the percentage still went down from 55 to 52. And I think it's because there was a black woman running. And Ken and I, 30 years from now, we'll be having the same argument. Hey, Kenny, you're wrong on this.
I won't be arguing with anyone in 30 years from now, sir. I will be somewhere on an island smoking pot. I won't be arguing with anybody.
Man, some of my best arguments happened when I was smoking pot. Oh, man. Hendrix, greatest guitar player of all time, man.
I will not be arguing. I'll be like 70. I'll be
all
good.
Right. I'm looking at it. We got to move on to the congressional hearings. We do agree. We're totally 100% agreement on one thing. Rahm Emanuel is a joke. Yes. All right. So congressional hearings yesterday, man, that was what a joke. So the Republicans, congressmen called together the mayors from, I think it was 4 Democratic-run cities: Denver, Boston, Chicago, New York. Oh my God, they threw Eric Adams there. Yeah. And what a farce to assail and assault them, because these are what so-called sanctuary cities in which the Democrats for years. This goes way back. By the way, Rahm subscribed to this one.
He sure did.
He sure did, and Baby Daly subscribed to it too. And the notion was that the Democrats are not going to work with immigration officials or law enforcement officials who are trying to deport immigrants. So if you have a legitimate warrant against somebody for committing a crime, the police will work with you. If you just want to know if Ken is actually an American citizen or a Mexican citizen, they're not going to work with you. Okay? So that's a distinction that any rational human being can understand. But Republicans are, I don't know if they believe the stupid stuff they say, or it's just the politics is provoking them, have turned that into this notion that the reason there's lawlessness in Democratic cities is because these Democratic mayors are allowing criminals to run around committing all kinds of crimes, and they won't turn them over to the feds. This is an absolute fabrication.
It is.
It's completely absurd. So it was political theater that they did this, Ken, and they used these mayors as props. As straw men in their political theater.
Yep.
And one of them was Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
All right. So I would love to hear your thoughts about what went down yesterday, and then your thoughts on how Mayor Brandon Johnson handled himself. Go ahead.
So I'm going to answer the second question first. I think Mayor Johnson did a great job representing Chicago. We really are the best freaking city in the world. And I in that moment very happy that he was the one there. Number two, I think the tone, the whole thing was like a bad skit from SNL. Because what you do is, and what they've done is, they have flooded these major cities with immigrants, okay? And they haven't provided resources. You have the governor of Texas is literally busing folks in the darkness of the night into other cities. And no one is looking at the governor of Texas and saying, hey, where's your decorum? What are you doing? You're over flooding these cities. But they're looking at the mayors and going, how'd you screw this up? It is total bullshit. And what I find laughable is that immigrants are committing less crime than people that are born here. That is a fact. Like, let's talk in facts for a moment. Immigrants are paying taxes on stuff that they'll never see again. There's so much bullshit out there. Immigrants are not committing the crimes that Congress or whoever these jackasses want you to believe that they are. Is simply not true. But back to the mayors are doing the best job they can with one hand tied behind their back. They're not getting the funding they need. They're in cities where you have the last census, and I don't want to get on a soapbox, but here I am. The last census was done under the administration of Trump. So you had a lot of folks that are in this country, undocumented, that were terrified to fill out the census forms. So then federally, we get less money. So the problem that these mayors are facing are simply because the Trump administration sucked and scared the hell out of people. But we're not looking at the root of the problem. You're looking at the branch and saying, let's whack the mayors. It's not the mayors. It's always been the Trump administration, which is the problem.
You're preaching to the choir, that one.
It's insane.
You said that, in your opinion, Brandon Johnson did a good job. Yes. I was reading the Chicago Sun-Times. They disagree with you. Some of the most biased coverage I've ever read against Mayor Brandon Johnson in the Sun-Times account of what went down is
what they do.
Astounding. So let me ask you this. Sure. Why, in your humble opinion, as a guy who grew up on the southwest side of Chicago, Kennedy High School, South Side kid, who now lives in DuPage County, so you've been in both worlds, if you will, okay?
I'm in all the worlds, yeah.
You're in all the worlds, man. You are the world. When they wrote that song in the 80s, they were thinking of you. That was before your time. But I know you saw the documentary on Netflix.
I did, and I loved it.
Yes. How did I know that?
I'm a nerd.
You were raised right, okay?
Yes.
So that grandmother of yours that you alluded to, she did a good job, and your mother too. All right.
Thank you.
So what is it? Help me out here.
Sure.
Why is there a bias against Brandon Johnson, in your humble opinion? I won't sit back, because I've talked about it from my opinion. I want to hear in your opinion. Why this bias against Brandon Johnson? Go.
Okay. For the first time, I'm actually speechless. So I think the bias is based on what the general public thinks we know versus what we actually know. I do think the Johnson administration is trying to do a job of presenting the best face after the Lightfoot administration. I believe that maybe a little bit more transparency about what's going on behind the scenes would match up with what we're seeing, and it's not matching. And that's what I think the problem is. I'm being incredibly diplomatic right now.
Well, again, I'll put it to you this way, and we'll move on. We'll close with this. It's the same situation as I outlined with why Kamala Harris went down to 52 from Joe Biden's 55. It's a black man, and the city of Chicago and the powers that be cannot deal with it. And I've now seen, I've lived long enough, Ken, every time a black person's elected mayor of the city of Chicago, there is a bias. They are treated differently. Yes. Mayor Rahm was treated differently than Lori Lightfoot.
Absolutely.
Mayor Daley was treated differently than Lori Lightfoot and Brandon Johnson. And go back in time before Ken was even born, Eugene Sawyer was treated differently than Mayor Rahm. And they always go to this. Well, Ben, you don't understand. It's because they always have some reason. Like, Mayor Lori Lightfoot's mean and nasty. Okay, I'm all right. Rahm's not Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah,
he just threw trans people under a freaking bus. Okay.
Well, and see, that's what I mean. I was trying to be diplomatic, but the reality is folks want black people to be great, but folks don't like when black people acknowledge that we are great. And that's the problem, is that when Brandon Johnson talks about how well he's doing, it pisses everybody off. We're not allowed to, we're supposed to be humble and grateful and silent. And I think that's the problem. I was trying not to say it, Ben, but there you have it. That's the answer.
All right. So let's close with a little comedy.
Please.
And lighten things up a little bit.
Let's do it.
And so producer Chris has set this up, I'm sure, by now, because he's the man, the myth, the legend. So when I forget when this was.
NAACP Awards.
Okay, no, but I'm gonna go back. So somehow or other, I figured out. Ken and I discovered that we both love comedy.
Yes.
I can't remember what the circumstances were.
I remember it perfectly. I can tell you word for word what happened.
Whoa, go talk.
We were talking about comedy, and you said, Ken, I know I didn't prepare you for this, but if you had to build a Mount Rushmore out of 4 comedians, I have a great memory. You would hate to be married to me, Ben. Which 4 comedians would it be? And then I listed Bill Burr, Eddie Murphy, Dion Cole, and Richard Pryor. And you said, really, Dion Cole? And I said, yeah. And we talked about it. You were
shocked. Did we do it on the mic?
That's exactly what happened.
That is exactly what happened, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, what a memory. This guy did not waste the early years of his life smoking reefer, okay?
No, I didn't. I'm saving it for later.
I forgot, but you're absolutely correct. It was a Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
You had told me you like comedy, and I was like, okay, what's your Mount Rushmore?
Yep.
And since that, by the way, I didn't have the appreciation for Eddie Murphy. I just want to let you know this, that I do now. For some reason, so Instagram, I punched on an Eddie Murphy thing a couple times, and now I'm being flooded with Eddie Murphy. You know how Instagram's algorithm works? Yeah. This dude is so freaking funny. His Tracy Morgan invitation that he did the other day on Saturday Night Live. Oh, my goodness. And then the thing he did, I urge everyone to check out Eddie Murphy on the Dick Cavett show in the 1980s, where Dick Cavett, who millennials don't even care who he is. Doesn't matter. Dick Cavett.
I'm a millennial. I know who he is.
I know, but I should whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is, Dick Cavett used the N-word and thought he was cool and clever when he did it. And what Eddie Murphy spontaneously does is brilliant, Ken. I just check it out, okay?
I will.
So anyway, you said Dion Cole. I'm like, Dion Cole? You put him on your top 4? I'm like, come on. And so I dutifully did my homework. I go, I've been watching him ever since. Now I get flooded with Dion Cole stuff on
He's
Instagram.
Hilarious.
So he is. I don't know if I put him on my Mount Rushmore, but he is pretty freaking funny. My wife and I, we watched the Dion Cole Netflix show. I think it was Netflix. We were laughing. Anyway, so we'll close with a little comedy. Dion Cole, where was it on? It was the NAACP
Awards.
Okay, this is pretty funny. Producer Chris, play Dion Cole.
A lot of people losing their minds, man. A lot of them losing their minds. And I'm going to tell you why I think people are losing their mind. They lack prayer. That's what's wrong with a lot of people right now. They lack prayer. And they need prayer. People need prayer. So I want all of us to pray right now. Please bow your heads, everybody. People need prayer, and we're going to pray for them. Right? Lord, we come to you tonight, and we want you to bless and cover our brother Kanye West, Lord. We want you to cover him with your blood, Lord. Our musical genius went from making wonderful beats to swastika t-shirts, Lord. And we just want you to cover our brother Kanye. And while you cover him, cover his wife too, Lord. She's been very naked out here, Lord. Bless her with a scarf or a bow tie or a ribbon or something, Lord. Just cover her with your blood, Lord. And cover this sold-out audience tonight, Lord. And yes. And speaking of sold out, bless that sister Candace Owens, Lord. Just bring her back to us. She gone too far, Lord, all right? Lord, we want you to bless our brother Kurt Franklin, Lord. Just give him some more church-worthy clothes to wear on tour, Lord. And we bind that twerk spirit that's been in him. Ooh, we don't want to see twerk Franklin no more, Lord. Get that sexy red spirit out of Kurt Franklin, Lord. We don't want to see him twerk no more, Lord. And Lord, while we speaking to close, bless our brother Shannon Sharp, Lord, with the size he really need, Lord. He keep buying up all the mediums all over. There's a bunch of 8th grade boys with nothing to wear all over the city. All these things we ask in Jesus' name, and the church say, Amen, amen, amen.
I love it. I loved it. Clearly.
And, I mean, I have many favorite parts in that riff, and then I'll ask you for yours. But my favorite part is Shannon Sharpe. So, folks who don't follow sports, Shannon Sharpe is a former football player who is now one of the world's most successful podcasters. He's pretty good interviewer of celebrities.
He is.
So he's a man who's clearly very proud of his body. He's chiseled. It's like if you took a piece of rock and chiseled the body. I mean, that's stone, okay? Yes. So he wears these skin-tight shirts that just pronounce that sculpture of a body of his.
And the whole suit is skin tight.
Yeah.
The whole damn suit. Everything.
And Shannon Sharpe was in the audience. You can't see the video. He was in the audience and he was laughing. But that line about there's a bunch of 8th grade boys with nothing to wear because Shannon Sharpe, it just cracks me up. Your thoughts on great Mr. Cole?
Oh my God. The part about Kanye was just, I kind of missed some of it because I was laughing. He and his wife or ex-wife or whatever she is and not wearing any clothing. And it's so spot on. What makes him funny is he's honest. His observations are very real.
Yeah, Kanye West has lost his freaking mind.
I think he does have some mental health issues, and he probably is not medicated in the right way. And I think losing a parent changes you. And I just think it's a I'm not making excuses for him. I used to be a fan. I am not anymore, clearly. But I do think he had some mental health issues.
Yeah.
And we probably shouldn't be laughing at him, but I am, and I'm not sorry. So.
Well, it's hard not to laugh at. I mean, now, what's the alternative? Cry?
Yes.
When you see him doing what he's doing right now, emanating the kind of hate that he's emanating. There was the gentleman I forget now, TMZ, it's been so long, who stood up to Kanye West. I don't know if you remember this, that famous exchange about where Kanye West said that there was slaves.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah. And so that was one way of dealing with it, but it just, nothing seems to work with Kanye West. So I think Deion Cole is using humor to just essentially say, this man has lost his freaking mind.
Yes.
All right, Ken, it's been a blast talking to you. Appreciate it as always.
It can't be another 2 years before we talk again, Ben. We have to change that.
Wait, it's been 2 years?
Yeah, Ben.
Whoa.
2 years.
On. I gotta get it together.
All
right, I'll definitely won't let 2 years pass.
Thank you.
And we'll close every conversation with a little comedy. So maybe I'll bring Eddie Murphy's that bit with Dick Cavett, which is pretty freaking on target funny. And you have to see it too, because Dick Cavett gets blushes because he really gets to him. So I'll send that to you.
After YouTube. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right, Ken, appreciate it. Thank you very much. I also want to thank producer Chris. He does an outstanding job. I know Ken agrees with when I say, hey, producer Chris, give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. Peace and love, everybody. Take care, Ken.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Ben Joravsky Show. If you want to help the show, don't forget you can follow us on YouTube at BennyJ Show. You can like the clips, like the shorts, watch the videos. It helps out. Once we get to a certain level, we might actually get a few dollars from YouTube. So that would be really nice, and it won't cost you a penny. Go to the new website, thebenjoravskyshow.com. Ben is constantly updating new featured articles. Podcasts are all up there. And if you want to throw in some change, well, the digital hat's there for you too. So make sure you check it out, thebenjoravskyshow.com.